Good morning. I'm going to do our devotional this morning from First Samuel, and I want to look at verses or chapters 9 and 10. We're going to do the whole thing. And yes, I am wearing the same shirt that I was wearing on Friday because I'm shooting this on Friday so that I could take Monday off. So don't worry about that. Many of you probably didn't even notice. So I just wanted to point that out for you. But let's go ahead and look at First Samuel 9 and 10. My son Jackson, he loves Lego. And I can't remember a time when he was not asking for Lego. Ever since he could ask for things for his birthday or for Christmas, or anytime he thought about it, or anytime he walks by a Lego, he would ask for one. He's also into Star Wars. So we have, when you put those things together, these start to get pretty expensive, a little bit pricey. So one year, Jackson has a little extra money, and he's going to order some of these Star Wars characters that you can get for Lego. And he decides that he can't afford the Star Wars ones or the actual Lego ones. So he's going to order these cheaper knockoff kind of versions of the characters. They look the part. They even click on the Lego sets like the regular ones. And at first he thought, this works. He liked them. He thought they were pretty cool. But then he would always say, but they're not really Lego. Even at his young age, he knew that these were not really Lego pieces, even though they looked like the real thing. And the same goes for all of the other knockoff pieces that he has. Now when we're building together, I can hold up a piece that I think he's looking for, and he'll say, Dad, that's not really Lego. And that's a cheap knockoff. I don't want to use that one. And it's not because he can only use Lego, but because he knows that those pieces don't fit exactly right. They fit okay, but there's something off about how they fit. And if he was to build this build, and he uses one of those cheap knockoff pieces, he realizes if it comes under stress, that piece is going to be the one that lets go, and then the whole thing is going to come down. So he knows that he can't use this cheap knockoff because it is going to bring his whole set down. Now, if we're looking at in 1 Samuel, we see that Israel, they've rejected God as their king over them, and they've asked him, Lord, we want you to give us a king who is going to be like a king of the nations. And God says, okay. Even though Samuel's a little upset, and I'm sure God is too, he says, fine, if that's what you want, I will give that to you. And as we read in 1 Samuel, we come to 1 Samuel 9, and we see this king that God raises up actually looks the part. We see there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish. This is Saul's dad. He was a wealthy man. So this king that God is raising up is a wealthy man, or from a wealthy family. His name was Saul. He's a handsome young man. He's not a man, there was not a man among the people of Israel more handsome than he. And from his shoulders up, he was taller than any of the other people. We also read in chapter 10, verses 23 and 24, they ran and took Saul from there, and when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from the shoulders upward. And Samuel said to the people, do you see him whom the Lord has chosen? There is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted, long live the king. They were excited that this man, he looked the part. But the Lord warned Israel about the kings coming from these earthly kings, the ones that they were wanting to raise up, even though they looked the part. He says, look, they're going to use you in verse 8. They're going to take your stuff. They're going to appoint your sons to run their chariots and their horsemen and appoint for themselves commanders, and you're going to go fight their wars, and he's going to make your daughters perfumers and all of these other things. He's going to take from you. And that's what you want. That's what you're asking for, so you get it. And as 1 Samuel unfolds, we see the pressure rises and stresses come, and the cracks start to form in Saul. And we see at one point he eventually crumbles, just like those cheap Lego bricks, those knockoff fake Lego bricks. And he brings down Israel with him, just like the Lego would, the fake Lego would bring down the whole build. Just like many of the kings, many of the earthly kings, we see the cracks in every single one of them, how they don't measure up to the true king. But we see this time of ascent in 1 Samuel 9 and 10. So we know that Saul's going to fail, but we as we go through verses 9 or chapters 9 and 10, we see him ascending to the throne. So in chapter 9, verse 11, he goes up to the city. Verse 14, he goes up to the high place. Verse 22, he goes up to the head of the table. Verse 25, he goes up to the top of the roof. And the author's trying to create this picture of him ascending to the throne. It's all up, 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 up. And he's making that movement for us. But what we need to see in the ascension of Saul to the throne is actually, that's a mini picture of the ascension of Jesus to the throne. It's a mini picture of the rightful and the perfect king, not some cheap replacement of God as they did here in the Old Testament, but the one who is not going to take from his people, but give to his people. He's going to save his people. He's going to protect his people. And as Jesus ascends to the throne, he does so by going up to the place called the skull. He's the one that's lifted up. He's the one that becomes the curse, quite opposite of what happens with Saul here. And then we see him ascend into heaven, to the rightful place, to his rightful throne, as he takes control, as he defeats sin and death after the resurrection. Even Saul receives the Spirit of God, and that's a picture of Jesus saying in Luke 4, 18 and 19. I should have this memorized by now. We've said it so often. But he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. So what we have to do when we come to this passage, and we read about Saul's life, and we see how Israel is trying to replace God with him, with this cheap knockoff, we need to ask ourselves, who or what am I asking or seeking to lead me or to fulfill me or to take the place of the rightful king in my life? Who am I actually following? Is it someone else or is it the one true king? And may we stop chasing the quick and the easy and the worldly and start pursuing with everything we have the true King, with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our might, with all of our strength. I pray that that's what we do. I pray that we see the cheap knockoff will never, ever, ever fulfill us. But Jesus Christ always will. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. God bless.